Hi, everyone, and hi. Good afternoon, and welcome to another recording session with me and Steve. Like, we are going live today to record our latest podcast episode. I'm not sure when it will be released, but I think last week's episode has been released already. And usually, we do this recording on Friday at around 1 o'clock. But today we have rescheduled the recording session, so I expect that fewer of you will be coming in to join us live. And today we're going to talk about personality. We're going to talk about a topic that fascinates so many people, and a topic that probably confuses so many people, like whether we can change our personality and how different personalities can work together. And today you can see that I'm speaking with a slightly softer voice because I'm actually in a co-working space right now. I'm not at home. And yeah, so say hi to us if you're here. Uh, if you're joining us live, say hi. And today we're gonna talk about personality. So I'm gonna type the topic and show it here so that you guys can see what we're going to talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about personality today, which is very interesting because, like, as far as I know, Steve is an introvert. Would you consider yourself a hardcore introvert, Steve?
I actually have improved a lot because throughout the years I do, performances and I have to meet people. I have to learn how to talk to people. But overall, I would say when I was in college, I studied computer animation, and I was totally an introvert, what they call a nerd, and very nerdy. So I throughout the years I improved a lot, but I am absolutely an introvert.
So, at your core, like, you would consider yourself a hardcore introvert, wouldn't you?
Pretty much. So I used to
Okay.
be like an 8 or 9 towards the
Okay.
introverted spectrum, and now
Okay.
I'm kind of around 6 to 7.
Okay.
So
And
let me just give you a quick impression. I would be like talking to you before I was like hi, trying to avoid eye contact.
yeah, I know a person or two like you. And like in contrast to Steve, I think I would consider myself pretty much a hardcore extrovert. Like I don't reject interacting with others at all. And actually, I do enjoy it quite a lot. And I think Steve, like from the limited interactions that we have had, I think you can tell from how I behave that I do genuinely enjoy interacting with people, and I'm pretty good at it as well. So I would consider myself an extrovert. Well, it doesn't mean that an extrovert has to say a lot, whereas an introvert has to be very reticent. Reticent is a pretty advanced vocabulary item. It means like silent. Okay, reticent. A reticent person doesn't say a lot. Okay, so if you are interested in learning this word, feel free to look it up from dictionary. Okay, and today, like Steve suggested, that I could do a little bit of a coaching session with him and tell him how to navigate this social world where it's all so loud, and the social world or our world seems to favor the extroverted person so much over the introverted person, right? And this is why, like Steve has mentioned to me a few problems that he might be facing, and he has asked me to give him my advice during this session. So the first problem that introverted people might come across, might encounter, is shyness. Is that right, Steve? How would you
Yes,
define
yes.
shyness? How does being shy feel?
To me is like I am afraid of strangers or people I don't know. So basically the basic definition of the feeling of shyness or why we're very shy.
Okay. So when you say that you are afraid of people that you don't know, right? So why is that a problem? So you can be afraid, you can be fearful, but why is that a problem? So what sorts of problems has that shyness quality brought you?
I think because it just that it's like what would the other person reaction be, um, and it seems to me that there's an unknown factor, right? It's like watching almost like a scary movie, like
Yeah.
in front of you is total darkness. You don't know the other person. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay. So by that, I think you mean that because you are shy, you might not be you're afraid of interacting with strangers because you might not be able to predict how the reactions will be like, and that has
Exactly.
like resulted in quite a lot of anxiety for you. Would you say that?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, okay. So my advice would be, I think the advice that I'm gonna give Steve in this episode are gonna be super fundamental. They're not gonna like change your life, like turn it around in seconds. But I think first of all, what we need to bear in mind, whether we are extroverts or introverts, is that no personalities are good or bad, which means that introverts have their merits and have their strengths that extroverts don't share, and extroverts have their strengths that introverts don't share. And as an extroverted person, I can tell you that I'm actually very, very used to predicting how others are going to receive my comments and how others are going to receive what I say. So I would say if you are shy, if you are an introverted, like members in the audience, if you are introverted like Steve is, I would say one of the best things that you can do is probably get coaching, not be afraid of get coaching from an extroverted coach. Well, uh, ideally, an extrovert who has ended up being who who is being able to pretend to be an extrovert, but is a bit of an introvert inside. And don't be afraid of getting coaching because, like, an extrovert is so much more experienced in predicting how others will receive our what we say. So I think an extrovert, especially one that is willing to share with you what they think, can help you a lot in that respect. So you can probably, before you meet up with a bunch of strangers, meet up with your extroverted friend and ask him or her to rehearse with you what to say in advance and how others might receive what you say. So that's the comment, that's the advice that I have for you. And right now I'm going to move my computer to a slightly more quiet room. Sorry about that. Okay. So nice. Okay. I've got a quiet room where I can speak now because even though I'm a really extroverted person, I can't bear with the interruption because I'm very sensitive in my hearing, and when I get interrupted, I am not able to think clearly. So, do you think that's good advice for you, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah. I would try. I would
Yeah.
definitely try.
Yeah, that's good. So shyness is the first problem. And the second problem is you don't know
Um,
what to talk about,
Basically,
right?
small talk in English
Yeah.
we call it small talk is, for example, at work or in a party or
Yeah.
just in a in a bar or place like that, right? It's related to the first thing that we talked about, and I really like this example of the difference between extrovert and introvert. Is extrovert get your energy from people
Yeah.
putting coin into you every time you meet somebody, right? But
Yeah.
for a very introverted person, we have a limited set of coin when we meet
Yeah.
somebody, and after we are done, we feel exhausted. And I think it
Yeah.
has to do with the second part is small talk. Is I don't know what to say, right? Unless I know
Yeah.
somebody, unless I already know like what that person like, or I have history with that person. So, and actually, I have improved a little bit on this area is to listen first. So this is something that really helps me a lot. But still，我都唔知講乜嘅有時，即係香
Okay.
港又好，喺外國又好。 Yeah.
So my first suggestion that I have for Steve, like first of all, I feel for you, and I totally get where that is coming from. You don't know what to talk about. You don't know what small talk to do, right? And first of all, I think the first suggestion that I will have for you is not everyone, like you need to remember, and everyone in the audience, you need to remember, if you are an extrovert, you need to remember not everyone loves small talk. Okay, not everyone. So for example, me, I'm as a very busy person, you might be able to tell, as a very busy person, I'm a very practical person, and I don't like, not for a single moment in my life do I think that when you like see me on the street, you have to say like talk about the weather. You have to talk about like I don't think
Yeah.
so. And you have to talk about like in 廣東話, it's like 你食咗飯未啊? How are you? Like that. And our friend Tim actually made a gag on that, right? Like Hong Kong people don't say how are you, right? And that's a very efficient way of going about a conversation. And I personally like that. I like zero small talk. I like that so much because I'm a person who is always to the point. I enjoy being concise, and I enjoy I like taking 15-minute meetings, which means that I don't like small talks at all. So first of all, don't think of it as an essential thing to do. Okay. So of course, there are so many people out there who feel that they need to talk about the weather. They need to talk about what else, like like hobbies, weather, like what you did at a weekend. There are people out there who feel that you have to do it. Right? But if you are in 廣東話, it's like 你出街啊? Like there's a classic phrase, right? Like when you go out, like go out to the door, and the neighbor says 你出街啊? Okay, and I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase because that phrase does no good at all. Like 你出街,
Yeah.
of course, like that's effing, like bull
Yeah. Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Like there's no point in like trying to start a conversation when you have nothing to say to me. Right? 所以咧就唔好
Yeah.
覺得
In
small
English,
talk
because
係
say the obvious, right?
yeah, like stating the obvious, and I hate that. I hate that. Of course, not everyone hates that, right? So
尤
it's
其是
just
老
me.
人家，老人家可能
Yeah,
佢哋個 it's like older people, they don't have too much going on in their lives. They just want to have some kind of interaction with you.
yeah, exactly. And so that's the first suggestion that I have for
Yeah.
you. The second suggestion is 唔好為講而講. I think one of the
Oh,
worst
okay.
things that you might end up doing, because as an extrovert you feel that you have to say something. If you don't say something, it will sound really awkward in the room with all the silence, right? So I would say don't 為講而講. I have seen
Mm.
like introverts doing things, saying things that end up backfiring on
Ah,
on their social life, because they are trying to compliment the other person, but in a very,
yeah.
very awkward way. Like if you can't make a good there's a saying in English that goes like this: if you have nothing good or nice to say, don't say anything at all. Okay?
Okay.
I can tell you that actually my boyfriend, who is sitting here, okay, he's actually an extreme introvert, and he doesn't say
Uh-huh.
much. But when he says things, he means them, and
Yeah.
he is like when he says things, they are all really inspiring because he never like says much, right? Yeah, so don't 為講而講. That's the second
Oh,
advice that I
okay.
have
Okay.
for the
Okay. So
second.
people are
Yeah,
fine if I like sometimes I would come across that I'm not a friendly person
yeah,
because the natural me is I'm
yeah,
quiet. But when I am a networking event or in a hang out with comedians, I'm just all by myself. Or for example, there like when there's a group environment, somebody have told me, am I like I guess because in America or in a lot of Western countries, people like you to interact with them, and if you're too quiet, they feel uncomfortable, or some people I would say feel uncomfortable. Well, like what should I do with this?
and I would say uh, in a usual setting, there is always a proportion of people who are extroverts, who, and to be more accurate, there is always a proportion of people who want to speak in that setting. And there is always a proportion of people, probably a larger proportion of people, who prefer staying silent and prefer listening. You have to understand that you are actually adding value to the conversation by listening well. Okay? Not necessarily by saying things, and especially not by saying pointless things.
Okay.
So I like what it takes a lot of observation, right? If that person works in a job that involves so much talking, he or she will prefer to stay silent in the social occasion. So it really depends on whether the other person wants to talk or whether the other person wants to stay silent, and that particular aspect takes a lot of observation, right? You have to observe whether that person feels like speaking, and that involves body language as well. So if that person enjoys talking, so the best thing that you can do is actually listen, right? So that's the advice that I have for Steve. Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good.
Okay.
That's very helpful. So I don't have to force myself to be to talk like an idiot anymore.
No, not at all, not at all. And
Okay.
I would say actually a high functioning extrovert or an extrovert will actually enjoy starting a conversation, and they will actually enjoy bearing the burden of starting a conversation so much more than you do. For example, I really do enjoy, there's a very funny saying that goes like this. The best thing that happens to an introvert is getting adopted by an extrovert. And getting adopted.
Yes.
Which means that you don't have to say a thing because the extrovert is working her magic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So I think get the right friends, make the right friends, and I'm now gonna share a slide, okay? And remember that wait a second. Oh, it looks like that I'm trying to share my screen, and I'm trying to see if I'm able to share my screen. Wait a second. Technical difficulties.
Oh, that is what introvert is good at usually.
Okay, good.
Talking about.
Well, it looks like that we can't share the screen right now. Okay, because of the setting issue. Right. Okay, it's okay. We don't have to share the screen right now. But if you are interested in checking out the workshop that Steve and I are jointly hosting, please WhatsApp us. I'll post a link in the comment section so that you can WhatsApp us easily. And we'll be starting a workshop on the 6th of December. And we'll be hosting this workshop for a consecutive of 3 weeks. So each workshop will be 2 hours long, but there will be a 15-minute break in between the two sessions on one single day. Right? So you can see that even though Steve is a hardcore introvert and I'm a hardcore extrovert, we could speak fluently and we can interact in a fluent manner. Neither Steve nor I are native speakers. 我哋係其實母語都係廣東話㗎嘛。Okay. So if you want to speak like us, if you want to speak fluently, if you want to be able to network with a native speaker and engage in daily conversations in a confident manner, please sign up for our 3-week Spoken English Challenge. 咁今日咧，如果你哋 sign up 嘅話咧，仲可以係用333蚊咧，就係做第一日嘅試堂嘅。OK， 第一日試堂嘅，我哋有試堂添嘅，咁可以用淨係 join 第一堂咯。咁所以如果你哋想 join 咧 ，OK，if you are interested in sign up for this workshop, please WhatsApp us. OK, 3-week Spoken English Challenge 係3週嘅口語英語挑戰嘅。 Okay? So I can't share the poster right now, but I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. And last time we were organizing this workshop, I think one of the students actually signed up again for this round of the workshops. So it's going to be very useful. Okay, so that's it for today. Like we talked about shyness. We talked about how to overcome not having things to talk about. We talked about how to like do small talk. Any other questions for me, Steve?
Actually, I am looking forward to some of the student, and I now I learn a lot, and I learn I don't have to say anything if I don't have to, or if I don't have
Exactly.
anything useful to say, if I don't feel like it at that moment, and I don't have to be afraid, at least, right?
Yeah. Actually, I wrote a Medium article, like I wrote an article on my blog about how an introvert can navigate the social scene. If you're interested, I can like send you the article after
Yeah,
the
sure, of course.
recording session. Yeah. And I think like introverts are afraid to speak because they are not used to predicting how the reactions of the other person will be like. But actually, you don't have to say things that you don't feel like saying. And you can actually get used to like predicting what the others might receive your words. If you are not absolutely not used to it, you can get help from an extrovert. And I think that's the best advice that I can give to any introvert. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
Absolutely.
So we are finishing the recording session on time today, which is really nice.
All
And
right.
if you are interested in listening to more episodes from Steve and I, please subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star rating. Mention that you have listened to this episode and you find it really useful. It means the world to us that you are showing us your support. So please do show your support in your reviews and give us a 5-star review so that we can like more people will discover this very very useful podcast. And interestingly, Steve, I
Yes.
noted that like more people are joining us live at this hour, which is very interesting, right?
Oh, I think
It
it's almost work because people are kind of, just hanging around at the office.
yeah 喺度蛇王，你哋班人喺度
Yeah,
蛇王。
exactly.
Yeah,
Hanging
okay.
out or hanging
Yeah,
around.
hanging out and chilling at work, and slacking at work，即係蛇王啊！你哋係啊，今日可以教埋最後一個字就 slacking。OK，咁大概就係咁啦。So I'll see you next week. Okay, next
Yeah.
week more interesting topics to come. Feel free to suggest what topics you want Steve and I to talk about. Okay, and I'm gonna post a poll in my IG story, Instagram story, so that you guys can suggest the topics that you want us to talk about. Okay, bye.
Bye.